Hi, everybody. Dr. Carolyn Ross here. It's a wonderful day in Southern California, and I hope it is for wherever you are. I'm wearing my special "The Future is Female" t-shirt, that's supposedly Morse code from Eileen Fisher. That's Morse code for "The Future is Female," which I totally believe. So today I'm coming to you to talk about something I hear a lot from my clients who say, yeah, the reason I have a problem with overeating or the reason I binge is because I just love food. Well, first of all, when you break it down, and if I ask them, okay, as your homework, write at least one paragraph about what you love about your favorite food fix, whether it's chocolate or macaroni and cheese or mashed potatoes, fill in the blank, whatever your big thing is that you tend to binge on, sugar, and so on. When I ask my patients to do that, they usually end up finding that they aren't really tasting the food that they say they love. Instead, what they really love is how the food makes them feel. So that's an important distinction, because if you think about it, does food taste any better if you only eat what your body needs versus if you binge eat? No, it really doesn't. So that makes me ask the question of, well, what's really going on there? In other words, you can love food without having to eat more than your body needs. So what's behind this overeating? Well, one of the things behind it is a personality trait called impulsivity. Impulsivity is a trait associated with emotional eating, compulsive overeating, binge eating, and food addiction. What does it mean? Well, and where does it come from? Even more important. Let's start with that. Where does impulsivity come from? First of all, if you grew up in a family that did not validate you or allow you to express your emotions honestly and openly, or if you were neglected or abused as a child, you may have never learned to identify or express or more importantly, to regulate your emotions appropriately. And therefore, as an adult, you may have difficulty tolerating stressful situations or strong emotions. And in fact, you may feel flooded by those emotions, or you may automatically just shut down because you feel overwhelmed by those emotions. So when you have difficulty tolerating your emotions, you may have used impulsive behaviors around food to manage those emotions. So here's the definition of impulsivity. If you are impulsive, you may just live and act from the present moment without regard to future consequences. So for example, you say, the food tastes good, so I will just keep eating without thinking about how you'll feel later on down the line. So where does that come from? Well, this trait of impulsivity doesn't make you a weak person. It certainly doesn't mean you're a failure or that you should be disappointed in yourself, because it is not your fault. And that's, I think, the biggest message I want to get across to you today. It is not your fault. Where does impulsivity come from? Well, we've talked a lot in previous episodes about the impact on the brain of early life experiences, insecure attachment, and so on, or poor bonding with the parent or caregiver. So how does that link to impulsively overeating or binging? Well, what happened, I want to connect the dots for you. So let's say that something happens when you were younger. Something happened when you were younger. Whatever happened probably changed your brain cell connections in your brain, changes the architecture of the brain and the nerve cell connections. Part of what changes is that it may predispose you to impulsive behaviors. So this increase in impulsivity is also connected to the decrease in dopamine in the brain. So low levels of dopamine in the brain can result in impulsive behaviors such as binge eating, emotional eating, and food addiction. So remember, it starts with what happened. And so instead of saying, what's wrong with you? Or many times we say to ourselves, what's wrong with me? I'm so disappointed in myself. I've failed myself. I've let myself down. Instead of pointing that finger to yourself, ask yourself a different question, which is, what happened to me? What happened in my life that might have changed my brain wiring that now leads to me having impulsive behaviors around food and the inability to tolerate stress, the inability to regulate or even to understand and be aware of what I'm feeling. So most people with food and body image issues that I work with in the Anchor program hold on to the belief that the only thing keeping them from gaining more weight or being in a bigger body is that they have to whip themselves into shape every once in a while. So that's where the fad dieting comes in. And that thought that I have to whip myself into shape, either with fad diets or extreme exercise programs where you work out, like The Biggest Loser, you work out 8 hours a day and so on. That all comes from the diet mentality, which the underpinning of which is, I need to be thin in order to have the life I want. Okay, I just want to repeat that. Do you still believe that you need to be thin in order to have the life you want or the life you deserve? Because that's not true. You can have the life you want no matter your size. You can have good health, you can have relationships, you can have the job you want, and so on. So this is a belief that has been drilled into us from very young. Many of you were started on diets when you were 5 or 8 or 11 years old, before you could even have a weight problem, really. And that then led to your being in this vicious cycle of, needing to binge or overeat to soothe yourself for having difficulty regulating your emotions or dealing with what happened to you. So I just want you to remember again that these food and body image issues lead to the traits of impulsivity and compulsivity for compulsive overeaters that are originally caused by early life adversity or trauma, all of which have then created low levels of dopamine in the brain, as we've discussed before. Let's take a deep breath on that one. It's not your fault. It's dopamine. It's my brain's hardwiring because of what happened to me. When you think of it that way, instead of when you think about this being all about the number on the scale, if you can get away from that and think about this being a journey of self-realization, a journey to your authentic self, a sacred journey. And that's how I feel. I feel that the journey to healing from food and body image issues really is a sacred journey. But going on yet another fad diet or extreme exercise program is not going to make the changes you long for, or at least not for long. What if you could spend time doing what really works, changing your lifestyle, learning about how to heal the brain and healing early life experiences, or coping more effectively with your current stressors? That's what we work on in the Anchor program. What if you could focus on these very real issues, and with each action you take, with the time you invest, see significant, long-lasting change? Would that be worth it for you? Well, if you're ready to learn more about this, I really encourage you to check out the show notes and join me on my webinar, How to Stop Feeling Crazy About Food. In that webinar, I teach you 3 specific things that show you how I work with clients in the Anchor program, that even just watching the webinar will give you a lot of information about the direction you should take if you really want long-lasting change. So check out the show notes for that, and you'll see that there. And join me next time. We'll be talking about something that's also near and dear to my heart, which is children are sponges. So I won't say any more. I want that to be a good surprise for you.